We're back. It's Ralph Mel from Potts.
Ralph,
it's Potts with Potts.
I've missed you, mate. It's been a while.
Missed you too. Anything been happening in racing?
No, it's just you know, rolls on.
I'm trying to figure out who's more disappointed, people watching or me, because I like watching DK with you, so I'm DK for the day. So we'll try our best. I just want to start off with a tip for anyone who might be a young father trying their best, because you'll never get it right. The best tip I can give you, Maddie Welch sent me a text message and a direct message. Don't know why, but about 6 weeks ago. I had been surfing with my son, body surfing, and I smashed my shoulder like you wouldn't believe. And I know I've won my battle with anorexia, and that's what the Melbourne Punters panel's been about from the days with Juppy. But I've done lots of weights for the last 10 years. If I hadn't have been, I would have broken my shoulder in about 3 spots. So I've just been on a bike for the last 6 weeks. If I hadn't have, so if you're trying to keep up with your kids, just do some weights so you don't get yourself smashed up, because it's the only thing that stops kids from getting smashed up. But it's a punishing thing trying to keep up with people.
And what was the advice from Maddie Welch?
No, I just said, you texted me about it. I can't even remember what he texted me about. We're just bantering, but I was, at the time my arms were packed up.
Oh, he's a good man, Maddie. Good man.
But his kids, he's younger, a decade younger than me. His son's 10 years younger. I said, start doing weights, because at one stage you're going to find yourself in the wrong spot at the wrong time. And that's what happened to me. So apart from that, racing's going great. Bit of controversy about it.
Well, there certainly is. So made its way to the mainstream racing, hasn't it? So there we go. It always takes something like that, doesn't it?
Out of 10, how shocked are you that it's there? You allowed to say how shocked?
No, well, 0. I'm not shocked.
Yeah. And is that because, as a punter, your mechanism is, I'll take everything on face value until I say otherwise, and then if something else comes up, something else has happened?
I don't know how to word it, Ralph. I hope I word this well. I'll just try. From my point of view, it's an incredibly competitive market, and all these trainers are just trying to compete.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that people should look at with a lot of these text messages, the ones that have been published, not a huge number of these horses won.
Yes.
Okay. I think when they published the ones about actually betting, that a lot of these horses that they were giving top ups, they weren't backing particularly.
Yeah.
They were just doing it to compete.
Yes.
So I think people should think about that. That's the nature of the industry. And everyone should look at the way things have evolved over the last several years if they want to get an insight to it. I sort of don't want to go too much in it and cast any aspersions, because to me, I don't mind how it is. At the end of the day, these stables have certain patterns that some are predictable, some aren't. You've just sort of got to evolve with it and do what you have to do to win, and not worry about it too much.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No. So, because I'm trying to work out how to say this if I have to talk about it on SEN tomorrow, because that's a mainstream situation as opposed to just a punter. So, as you said, it's in the mainstream. And one of the things that sort of annoy me is probably the wrong word, but let's say machine. There's a good argument to say, and I'll tell you what, I was working, never mind if I'm a clown or whatever, but I was on RaceTrack at the time with the great Dominic Byrne, which was a great privilege to go down well, doing our best. And Dowager Queen was the favourite in the Oaks. And Dominic said Dowager Queen is going to go down in racing history as the slowest Group 1 favourite in the history of Flemington. Machine, if I was Danny Nicklick, I'd roll to the front and keep rolling, and the rest of the field is legless, and she'll probably win in the high space. Now, Fenningham, you could not nail a race better than that.
Yeah.
Where I'm going with that is, now, particularly with the mainstream, they'll show a bit of that. They'll see Machine was part of the exchange of text messages, and they'll say, wow, look at that, that proves ... And that the average person who doesn't do form like we do, and whoever else does form properly, would think, my goodness, what was that on Rocket Racer style? In the end, she won, she ran to her form, and others didn't. So, the answer, as you're saying, it's never definitive.
Yeah, well, this sort of stuff, it's helping horses find that extra length or two, you know what I mean? Which is...
But isn't it funny with from the punt perspective?
Which makes a big difference to you. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not... I'm just saying these are the ones that have been caught. These are the guys that have been caught. Right, so, but they were doing it to compete.
Yeah.
I'm saying that a lot of what happened with the vets associated with Danny O'Brien and Mark Kavanagh,
Yep.
those vets were pushing the envelope, right?
Yep.
So because it all got blamed on the vets in the end. Basically, that's what
That's the
vets did it.
The VCAT summation was that.
So they were pushing the envelope to try and compete. Now, unfortunately, those vets were, some of them were betting, which I think is something that the industry should, because
that's what I want to ask you. So, because actually at the moment we don't know, other than what we've read in the paper, and we'll take it as read that what was written was accurate. There was good coverage there all the time. But that's what I want to know from someone like yourself. What needs to be done in the bigger picture? Because at the moment, if anyone says, let's just nail these people, okay, I'm not saying don't, nor sticking up for them, let the court case decide. But surely that screams to you, there's structural problems in the way these things are checked. And one of them, as you say, could be, why are vets allowed to bet?
Well, look, to be quite honest, the people at Racing Victoria would be horrified at this suggestion.
Yeah.
And so would a lot of the, owners and mainstream media and all that sort of thing. But they should hire Robert Smurden in the integrity department. They've got to face reality of the situation. These people are just doing what they have to do to compete. So if they actually want their integrity department to be successful,
yes.
Like in that, there's a movie like the FBI hired the guy that was the expert counterfeiter.
Yes. So
Catch me if you can.
Yeah, there you go.
That type of mentality.
Yeah.
He's got incredible insight into what these trainers have to do. So if they're desperate to stamp it all out,
it can be part of the plea deal.
That's like
it actually can. But it's funny about the punters mechanism. So I'll tell you a story about a race that happened in the last 5 years. How many races have there been in the last 5 years?
25,000.
I'll say
in Victoria. Maybe?
I've done my legal sort of. I've had advice from when back in the day. So, but in the last 5 years, a race happened, and a horse won really well. Don't guess, because you might be right. And everyone went. And the second horse that was favourite then went on to win a lot of races. The next up for this horse that won really well, by any measure, the clock, the distance, the margin, the weights, whatever, it doesn't matter how you looked at racing, it won amazingly well. Next up, it started favourite because its win was so good. Now, I got a phone call that where this horse was trained, the integrity team turned up. And it's a bit like, you mentioned a movie, it was a lot of Blazing Saddles, they're coming!
Yeah.
That horse then ran really, really badly, okay? As favourite, really badly. Where I'm going with this is, what would punters have preferred? They would have preferred that if it did have treatment, in race 1, they would have still preferred to have exactly the same treatment race 2, as opposed to if it did have treatment, if it did. Then going, well, we're not going to give it any race day treatment today because the integrity team's about. Where I'm going with this is, punters are all about self-interest, and what we hate more than anything, or what as a group, is gear in, gear out. If you're going to be do it consistently. We actually don't care about anything else.
Yeah, well, it's like, to be quite honest, if we were talking to the stewards here, I would say, as part of your Twitter feed, I'd love to know which stables the integrity team has visited in the lead up to afterwards.
Absolutely.
On every day, you know what I mean? Which stables have been had a visit. So
and the questioning, which is something that we often say, the questioning of rides and tactics is an incredible frustration to us. And
it is when it shows up in betting prior to the race.
Yeah. Either way, for or against. I'll give you another race. Don't guess, you'll probably get it right. It was a city race in the last 10 years. I think I've narrowed it down enough. So a horse had run really well in Saturday grade and then runs in lesser grade. It was favourite. It had early speed, but it had an inexperienced kid on it. There was another horse in the race that was, let's say, a quarter horse type. Very fast, not much good, but very fast early. 2 hours before the race, they announced a change of tactics on the very fast horse that they were going to try and ride at midfield or get him to settle for no reason whatsoever. What do you think happened to the betting of the horse that was favourite anyway?
Yeah, well, it's heavily backed.
It was smashed like it couldn't get beaten. And guess what happened? It got a very soft lead. No one else took it on. The horse was at the back restraining, and it was backed off the map. Now, from a wagering dynamics in 2000, and I'll say 18, whatever the year the race was, the reality is now a plunge is on a favourite, isn't it? Because it's too hard to get a plunge going on a 30s into 8s. It's $200 sometimes the wrong person at the wrong time.
Oh, well, it all depends.
No, sure. What I'm saying is you can get a monster amount on favourites.
Yeah. Yep.
Is that fair?
Yep. Because
there's more chance of someone else on the other side there. My question is, Stewart should ask that trainer, why are you deciding to go back in the field? From an integrity point of view as a punter, because I wasn't the only punter at the time who said, hang on, what's going on here?
So one of the problems is they may ask that question, we don't know, and
should we know?
There's so many races, and we should know for sure. There's so many races, and they're short staffed. It's a real problem. So just back to the text messages. There is something that caught my eye.
Yes.
Just read through the one. I read the one about the exchange between Greg Milligan and Robert Smyrn about xenon gas.
Right.
So it was like obviously something that they'd had no experience with, but they'd heard about it, and
yes,
let's make some inquiries. And so that's I've heard that it's like 3, I think it might have been 15-minute treatments, and the effect will last for 80 hours.
Yep.
I went, oh, that's interesting. That's very interesting.
Because what you're saying is, that meant if that stable knew about it, what other stables were using it?
Exactly. And when you think about it, like, and you know, if you were aware of what that did to that horse in terms of lengths, and then matched it to betting and stuff like that, like you go, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
To me, you know, and it's very expensive, and you'd be better off doing it if you were not at one of the main training centres, I'd say. You know.
Yes.
So it's a certain. I mean, who knows? I wouldn't.
Yeah.
What would I know? I wouldn't have a clue. But I just go, that's interesting.
And this again isn't casting aspersions per se about where it is, but when Ben Johnson was a good athlete, because you can't make me and you beat at Usain Bolt. When Ben Johnson was a good athlete, became a great athlete, what made everyone's radar go up? How fast he ran.
Yeah.
Until stewards start looking at those things, I don't ever see them say, how come that horse was able to run this fast or not? Until stewards look at races like Hummers do, surely these mistakes will get through.
Yeah.
Queries? No?
Yeah, I just think it's such a, like, because we're interested in the races we're interested in.
No,
they have to be interested in all of them. You know what I mean? And it's such a big job. So we've got to be careful not to ask too much. How are we going there?
No, we're going. Well, what about we talk about 3 Group 1s in the other part?
Yeah.
And a good day's meeting at Caulfield.